Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Matson. We are starting with fractions. We're going to start with improper fractions and mixed numbers, and we're going to kind of go back and forth between the two of those types of fractions. So the first thing I want you to know is the difference between a proper fraction, an improper fraction, and a mixed number. Okay, you'll notice with these proper oh, I don't know who you are. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a lesson. So you'll be declined. Returning to our video. Proper fractions, what you will notice is that the numerator is smaller than the denominator. These are proper. I like to think of like cheerleaders. Like if this was a size 4 cheerleader, and do you know what cheerleaders I'm talking about? The ones that like boom, like the males are usually on the bottom, the females are on top, and you have to have a big buff male to like hold up the little cheerleader. So that's the proper way to be a cheerleader, right? The bigger number, the bigger cheerleader is on bottom. So if you'll put like a proper fraction up here, doesn't matter which fraction, it just needs to be proper. The bigger number will be on bottom. That is a proper fraction, okay? Now, an improper fraction is the exact opposite. It's where we have the smaller cheerleader on top of the bigger cheerleader. And you know what? That'd be really improper. If there was a tiny little cheerleader trying to hold up this big, strong male cheerleader, it just would not be right. It would be very, very improper. So everyone put an improper fraction underneath there. Make sure that the numerator is way bigger than the denominator. All right. Then we have what is a mixed number. And it's called mixed because it's a mix of a whole number and a fraction. I was like today years old when I realized that that's what mixed meant. A mix between a whole number and a fraction. So you are older than me when you realize that. All right, so here's what I want you to know today. Every mixed number can be rewritten as an improper fraction. Here we have the exact same amount of green. One is just written as 1 1/4, and one is written as 5/4. So that's what I want you to know today is that the mixed numbers can turn into an improper fraction can turn into a mixed number. And that's what we're going to work on today. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to take a mixed number like 3 3/4 and turn it into an improper fraction, which will be useful later on in math. When we do some other operations, you'll need to have it in an improper form to be able to multiply and divide. So that's why we're learning how to do this. Otherwise, you'd be like, why can't we just leave it mixed? That's why. Okay, so the first thing I want you to know is that we can go, I call it go around the world, and I'll show you why. We start here at 4, and basically we're going to go around the world. Clever, huh? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to times these two numbers together. 3 times 4 is 12. And let me show you why we times them together. Do you see these 3 whole pizzas right here? I'm going to divide them into fourths, okay? So when I divide them into fourths, how many pieces do I now have? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Do you see why I multiplied it together so that I could figure out how many fourths there actually are? So I have 12 fourths just in those 3 whole pizzas. The second thing I'm going to do when I go around the world is I'm going to add the numerator. And as you can see, the numerator is everything that's kind of left over here. So there's 3 empty pieces. That's why there is a 3 up there. And that's why we're going to add it at the end. So we're going to add that 3. Okay, so we have 12 plus 3, and that equals 15. So all together, these 3 3/4 pizza is actually 15 fourths. Okay, I kept it as fourths, and do you see as we went around the world, we ended up pointing back to the denominator that we're going to use. So we just found out that 3 3/4 is the exact same thing as 15 fourths. So cool, huh? So go around the world by multiplying first, adding the numerator, and then going right back to your denominator. Okay, So now let's do the opposite. Now we have an improper fraction and we need to turn it into a mixed number. This will happen when you want to get a final answer. You never want your final answer to be improper form. That means you're leaving the number 4 cheerleader holding up the number 11 cheerleader, and it's just not going to be very good, is it? So what we do is we actually use that fraction bar and use it as a division sign because fractions actually are division symbols. And what we do is this top number is always the one that goes inside, and the bottom number is always our divisor. So whatever is on top, always put that as your dividend, as the number inside. How many times can 4 go into 11? 4, 8, 12. So just 2 times. And 2 times 4 is 8, and I'm always going to be left with a remainder. Not always, but in this problem, I'm left with a remainder. So here is my beautiful division. How in the world does this become a mixed number? Well, I was able to put 4 into 11 2 whole entire times. That's what that was. Okay, that would equal 2 whole entire fourths is right there, right? And that is why I have 8 here, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is why I used 8 right here. Because if I take 2 whole pizzas, divide them into fourths, I have 8. Okay? And now this shows that I will have 3 left over. So whatever my remainder is what goes up on top. And then I'm keeping it as fourths. So 2 and 3/4, let's figure out, let me draw that better. That 3/4 is right there. So there's the 9, 10, and 11. There's where the 11 came from. So all together right here, that is 11/4. But you could also see it as being 1, 2 whole pizzas, and 1, 2, 3, 3/4 of a pizza left. So cool, huh? So we have 2 more examples here. I want to write it as both the mixed and the improper form. I kind of like to think of rectangles as candy bars. It looks like we have 1, 2 whole entire candy bars, and then just 1 out of 1, 2, 3 thirds. So that last candy bar was divided into thirds, 3 pieces. So they're called thirds, and 1 of them was shaded. So I had 2 whole pieces and then just 1/3 of a piece left over. Okay, now to get to the improper, we can do one of 2 things. We can just, let me make this big, we can just count all the thirds. All of these candy bars are divided in thirds, so we could just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, get 7 thirds. Okay, but we won't always have the visual, will we? So we got to also learn it a different way. The different way was to go around the world. 2 times 3 is 6. And look here, yeah, there are 6 there. And then let's add that 1 that's left over right there. And that would give us 7. And then finish going around the world, and we're left with thirds. So 7 thirds. So no matter which way you do it, you're going to end up with the same thing because it's the same value, right? Let's do one more example. Let's start with the improper way now. It looks like these are divided into halves. So I'm going to put my denominator right there because every whole pizza is just divided into 2 pieces. That's how I know that it's in halves or twos. You don't say twos, you just say halves. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 halves. Okay, now I could visually see that if I just wanted to write it in the mixed number form, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whole pizzas and a half of a pizza left over, right? But if I didn't have this beautiful visual and all I knew was that there were 11 halves, I could tip that over and say, all right, well, 2 will go into 11 5 times. So that'll give me 5 whole pizzas. I'll end up with 1 left over. So there's a 5 there and a 5 there. That's where the big 5 came from. There's a remainder 1. That's why I have a 1 for a numerator and a 2 on the outside. The 2 is my denominator. So 5½ is the exact same thing as 11/2. So cool, huh? So now you know that you can go around the world to get an improper fraction, or you can tip over an improper fraction and divide it to make it a mixed number. Awesome. See you guys later. Sorry for the interruption with the phone. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Yeah, right. It'll happen again.